frequency sounds, and both of them are kind of necessary for music to be good.
Yeah.
So similarly in life, is it like both of them are necessary to be good, or it's preferred to be at a higher frequency always?
Frequency you're talking about now? Well, this is music, and it's another topic. That's okay. I mean, raga is the science, in Sanskrit, it's the science of music. Just stepping back from your question, different frequencies in combination create different ragas. Ragas, that's the sound itself creates a mood or an emotion. And there's different ragas for different times of the day, and different ragas for different situations. And it's more an aesthetic science of understanding how to amplify or accelerate or increase a certain emotion. So it's not, combination is nice, but it's, what combination makes different moods or different emotions? The frequencies stimulate emotion. And there's a science to it. But this, maybe I'm over answering your question, but you're happy. That's good. Yes. But you have a good voice. Do I need the microphone? We'll give you the microphone. Okay.
So I had a question. So when my mind is disturbed or having any negative emotion,
Yes.
so in that moment, I try to meditate or to chant on the mantra, but that negative emotion is in the background, it's going on, and I kind of ignore it and try to distract myself with some music or mantra, and then that emotion, let's say after 1 year or 2 years, it will come back. It is coming back and feel like suffering, and it's horrible. So how to deal with it? Yeah.
Just to add this question.
You're going to add to this question?
Yes, why is only the negative thoughts are very strong in our soul than the positive thoughts are?
Let me just deal with her question. You can have the microphone next. Because she has a very specific question. And it deserves a specific answer. The little sutra is, there's no substitute for purity. One of my favorite sutras. So to get to the point where that trigger, like I imagine, for example, if I was in a confined space, that claustrophobia thing would come out because didn't get up and walk away. How long is it going to take for that to go away? This is kind of what you're asking. And knowledge and detachment, jnana vairagya, will help. But it's not sufficient. Meditation is meditation will bring about purity is where it's gone. Here's the good news. However, how long it's going to take is how long it's going to take for it's gone. And for it to reappear because it hasn't completely gone yet, you tolerate it. Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. You familiar? Tongues to take Shosvabharata. You tolerate it. And when you tolerate it, there's something else you can do. And that's which you said you did. You invest your consciousness in something else. Not tuck it under the rug, but just don't give it the importance that it wants. Pram Drishtva, another verse in Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya vinivartante niraharsha dehi nam. Another verse. Pram Drishtva nivartate. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, by experiencing a higher taste, this other thing, it just diminishes. It's still there, but it diminishes in its importance. Now, supposing you depart from the higher taste, it chances are it's gonna take prominence again, because it didn't go away. And so the final solution is purity, and the purity is when the mind is completely cleansed. Now, how long is that gonna take? It's gonna take a long time. But you've just combined those principles, and there's three principles: higher taste, and the lesser taste diminishes. When the lesser taste seems to the situation or feeling, whatever it is, seems to be rising in prominence, you tolerate it. It's getting cold. What do? Put on a jacket. And then it gets colder than cold. You tolerate it because you can't, nothing you can do about it. Tiksha. And while you're tolerating, let me, because I can redirect the emotion to an emotion of where I want to go. The higher consciousness place, just keeping simple language. That's what I would like. So let me strive towards that. And then gradually, by abhyasa, by practice, the purity can be yours. I can attest to it. I've been practicing bhakti yoga for 53 years. And those negative emotions that I knew as a younger fellow, it's just not the same. It's not like there's no obstacles that appear suddenly, but the reactiveness to those obstacles. Intelligence is operating, discernment is happening. It's not me. It's you carry higher consciousness with you as you evolve in higher consciousness, and then it becomes, your options become clearer, your discerning faculty becomes greater. You're identifying with who you really are as opposed to who you aren't, like that negative emotion that you mentioned that keeps reoccurring. It doesn't just get up and go away. So gradual practice. You ready? You ready? You don't need a microphone.
Actually, daily we are seeing a plenty of positive thoughts.
Daily we're seeing plenty of what?
Positive thoughts.
Positive
thoughts, but still only the negative was staying in our mind. For example, if you are seeing many people, whatever he did, thousands of positive, still the negative comes in our mind. He did this day, this time, this negative he did for me. Why is only staying a long time? Why positive is not staying?
Well, you're you and I'm me, and we may not have the same experience, but what you're saying may be, somewhat of a common experience. We're pleasure-seeking entities, so we don't like the pain. And it's easier to dwell on what we don't like than what we like, necessarily. I mean, that's just our conditioned stage of life. For pleasure-seeking living entities, there's a reason behind it. The reason behind it is that's who we are. Satchitananda, that's who we are. Ananda is who we are. So we want to be who we are. We want to be who we are. And then something gets standing in the way, and it's not difficult. It happens very naturally to try to get rid of that thing that's unhappiness, because I want to be who I am. Built into the machine. So by there's a Sanskrit word, abhyasa, means practice. By practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, the mind will go to not just pleasant thoughts instead of the unpleasant ones. The mind will go to who you really are. That's the solution. You're asking why. The problem is there. It's a conditioned tendency, conditioned because we want happiness, and here comes this other thing. It's not difficult to dwell on it. It's quite natural. I got a pain in my arm. My attention goes to a pain in my arm. else. Maybe I should do this while you're eating. You have something.
So like you were speaking about intentions. So oftentimes whenever we start something, the intention is always good, most of the times at least.
Well,
but
good.
yeah, but with due course of time, by more and more interaction with people, sometimes our intentions get absorbed by their vibrations, and the entire purpose with which we started that thing, we deviate from that, and it happens very frequently.
Yeah.
So, what's a good
Why
solution?
and what to do.
Yeah.
Why and what to do.
Yes.
Why, from Bhagavad Gita, I like Bhagavad Gita, it answers lots of questions. It has to do with Sangha. It's in chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. Sangha sanjayate kama, kama grodha vijayate. That Sangha is a word that means by association you develop qualities like those with whom you associate. So if you're associating with persons that have a different purpose than your purpose, chances are you'll be influenced by a different purpose. Or, say it the other way, supposing you keep the association of those that have similar purpose, then it can strengthen your purpose because you have similar purpose. Then it gets, complex because everyone has diversity in their purposes. But the principle of why it happens is Sangha. And then another answer to your question, what to do, has to do with Sangha. If I want to get warm and it's cold, stand near a fire. I get warm. If I want to stay fixed in my intention, stay in the company of people who are disciplined and the mode of goodness, and they'll help support me and encourage me in my intention. Keep good association. Aside from that, go back regularly and revisit your intention. Like, why am I doing this? It's a reset button. Computers have it, technology, so hit the reset button regularly. And then you may want to reconfigure what your intention is. And that's okay. Called life. But be ready to revisit and reinvest in your original intention, and be in the company of people that will tap you on the shoulder when you become defocused and they say, excuse me, but I've noticed that you're something. Oh, thank you. To have good friends, Sangha. It's a good association. I'm impressed that you cooked enough. I don't know how that happened.
You were talking about different negative emotions, and sometimes I feel that it is easier for me to think about how to manage them when I'm not in them. But when I'm in them, I don't sometimes even want to work on trying to get out of it because I'm so deeply invested in that emotion. So is there something that we can do that helps us when we are in the middle of that emotion, when we are up?
Yeah, mode of goodness. Mode of goodness. There's a symptom of mode of goodness. It's not the only one. Is introspect. So if you step back from the thing, experience or the emotion or the circumstance or whatever, and you go like, what's happening? So you're outside of the autobiography. You're going again into this reflective space, mode of goodness space. Who am I? What's my purpose? What's going on? You become, rather than reactive, you become reflective. Reactive is more in the passion mode, and reflective is more in the mode of goodness mode. So now you're going back to who you are, and what knowledge you've understood, and then you start making the next thing you do is, here's a little brainstorm list of what I can do, my options of actions or speech or behaviors, what to do about this. Ideally based on wisdom, not just based on convenience. So being conversant in wisdom literature will help. And having good friends will help, and having someone that can guide you in those circumstances, that's like super good. A teacher, a guide, some wise person I can look up to and go to when I need to do that. But it starts with this being introspective and reflective as opposed to reactive. Mode of goodness, please. Yeah.
Say I am like able to kind of turn like the negative emotions of a moment into something like neutral or positive or introspective. There's still like that built energy from that negative emotion. Like, how can I channel that somewhere else, or like where would I put that? Because I still feel very strongly about whatever it is, no matter how I'm able to, or like physically, there's still like a strong feeling, or sometimes mentally.
That's a residual effect. My language is, I call it a residual effect. And if you're able to do what you just said, the residual effect can still be there, but you don't have to act on it. And if you choose to not act on it, it'll stop acting on you. Or say it the other way. Supposing I continue to invest value in that emotion that happened some time ago and it's the lingering effect. As long as you keep investing value in that emotion, it continues to have life. But what is it really? What was the event and what was the emotion connected to the event? It's an impression in the mind. And supposing you become proficient at identifying who you are instead of the mind and the mind's stuff, and the emotions in the mind and all of that thing. It doesn't mean you switch your mind into the off position, but you just don't identify with it. And then, as you said, you can redirect towards what? The life's mission. Life's mission is not resolving that emotion that's still lingering. It'll be taken care of by pursuing and achieving the higher purpose of life, like knowing who you are. It's a subset. It's accomplished. Let me do that. And the other is, again, this situation of tolerating. That just means I just don't keep investing energy in that thing that's demanding. Pay attention. I'm important. Excuse me. Okay, you're important, but backseat, please. I got a nice parking lot. Go over there in the parking lot. We'll attend to you later. I got important business to do. Like life. And when you don't have to trash it or tuck it under the rug. It's just over in the parking lot, please. And if it is really important, in time you go back to the parking lot and you take a look at it and you deal with it in a way that's, you're not invested in the urgency mode. You have a discerning mode, and you deal with it in time. It takes mental. You have to be yogi, control of the mind and senses. But welcome to the Yoga Club. You have something I can see.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. So my question is like, whatever we have negative thoughts, if we try to give priority for those negative thoughts, or try to recall those every time, will it make happen? Is that true?
Let me rephrase your question. I don't need the microphone. Let me say back what I think you're asking. You can tell me, yeah, that's what I'm asking, or no, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay, sure.
Okay. I have this, sometimes I go back and revisit some negative emotion and negative thought, and I keep going back and keep going back. And is it true that by keep going back, it means it's going to happen because I keep going back? Is that what you're asking?
Y-
Kind
yeah,
of.
if kind of, not exactly.
Say, added it, so it's kind of.
Let's say if I am driving car, so some thought is coming in my mind, I am going to crash someone. So, for example,
All right.
not exactly.
I understand.
So, if I am going to emphasize that thought all the time, or like is gonna be impact on me?
Yes. Your discerning capacity gets impaired. It's not like, a premonition of an event that is going to happen because you're having a thought about something that hasn't happened yet. It's not your thought creates the outcome.
Okay, is kind of intuition.
No. I mean, unless you're clairvoyant, but for those of us that aren't, it's not creates the situation. The thought doesn't create the situation. A calamity, for example. Misfortune. It's just your discerning capacity gets impaired. And higher discerning capacity is to know who you are, not the drama of who you aren't. That higher discerning capacity gets impaired.
So how to avoid that?
Yoga. Know who you are, as opposed to being absorbed in who you are and sorting out the varieties of who you are.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay. I think we should end. How we doing? Anybody have a burning? One more burning.
So when we say we do mantra meditation to realize ourselves, so there might be people who have realized themselves and continue doing
Show me
meditation.
one.
They say the people are there in TVs. They say they have realized,
Not
and
TV.
they start teaching others.
Okay.
How do we differentiate the people?
I would say the person that's on TV saying I've realized myself is a person that hasn't realized himself. Because one of the symptoms of someone who's in touch with reality is amanitvam. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12. Arjuna asks Krishna, what are the symptoms of knowledge? And the first one is amanitvam, humility. A person that has realized themselves is not going to advertise, I'm one who has realized themselves and I'll teach you. Come on board. So there are symptoms, now back to your question, there are symptoms of a self-realized person. Your question is right in Bhagavad Gita. There's another chapter besides that one, that's chapter 13. There's another chapter where Arjuna asks at the beginning of the chapter, what are the symptoms of a self-realized person? So read Bhagavad Gita, that chapter, and you'll get the answer. And if it matches, then you got a self-realized person. And if it doesn't match, you don't. But for starters, someone that's doesn't have that fundamental mood of humility, you can start looking elsewhere. Okay. Thank you all for participating. Go, Paul, you got a question? Really? Give this young boy a microphone.
Maharaj, you talked about the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. How do you differentiate passion and goodness?
He knows the answer. He just wants to get you. He's a smart kid, you'll see. You'll go. The primary distinction is karta aham. Karta means to do, and aham means I. So thinking I am the doer is a symptom of passion. It's a little bit like your question. Karta aham iti manyate. More specifically, that's false ego. Identifying oneself as the doer, when everything in fact is being carried out by material nature. But one who is thinking like that in false ego commonly is very involved in mode of passion. I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna compete, I'm gonna win, I'm at the center, and my endeavor is what makes things happen. That's passion. That's a symptom, fundamental symptom of passion. I'm the doer in false ego. And a symptom of goodness is to recognize what's what. I'm, who am I has a different bhav or different mood, different emotion. And I'm very tiny, and yet I have the capacity to do something by mercy, by kindness of higher power, higher authority, higher wisdom, and I like to follow that higher authority, higher wisdom, higher power. And the mood of serving others and ultimately serving the Supreme. That's mood of goodness. Okay. That's it. Thank you all. Who's going to do the wrap up? You